I have looked upon the face of a forlorn, and nothing is the same anymore.
Coffee, 2 sugars, cream, and aspirin.
There once was a man from Nantucket.
It must be Earth humor.
Beep, beep.
Hello and welcome to Who Are You? It's a Babylon 5 watchcast by a couple of internet strangers who are getting to know each other over the show Babylon 5. I am Laura.
I'm Xhafer.
Xhafer, tell me.
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Do you know who I am?
Well, put on the spot for the bit. What's something that you wouldn't know about me?
Pretty much everything.
Pretty much everything, right? So I want to pick something fun and interesting.
Yeah. That's the challenge.
To go.
For yourself. I mean, I'm sure you're plenty fun and interesting.
I hope so. Yikes. As a white man, I will have the illusion that I'm fun and interesting for forever. I can promise that. So
there you go.
There's that at least. I, at one point, and I am not any longer due to time and my rank dropping, but at one point was ranked within the top 100 sword fighters in the world.
How do you do that? Sorry to follow up a question with a question, but that is very
fine.
impressive. How?
Well, one, small sample size helps.
Honesty, I like it.
Well, so I participate in a hobby and scholastic study called HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts. This is recreationalist sword fighting. So we find, academic study, we find books that have survived from the past, the oldest being the 1300s, all the way up through some like modern-ish stuff from the 1800s, and translate and interpret the movements and the plays and the teachings of the old sword masters and then recreate them.
Interesting.
So I mostly have studied Hans Talhofer, who is a German master.
Very German name.
It's a very German name. He would have been teaching around the time that the beer purity laws went into place, if memory serves. Yeah. So you participate in tournaments that are scored, and then the scores go on a website called HEMA Rankings that collects aggregates and ranks everyone on an ELO system.
You used a lot of words there I don't know.
ELO is the same ranking system that chess uses.
Oh, okay.
So you get points for win, losses, and ties based off of the score of the people that you're fighting or playing in chess.
Okay.
So if you beat someone who's way higher than you, you jump up a bunch. If you lose to someone who's clearly better than you, you don't go down that far.
Oh.
If you lose to someone who's way worse than you, you shoot down.
I see. I don't know anything about chess either. You've like hit me on two things that I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds like a pretty just system of ranking things.
Yeah. I mean, and it's been around for a while in chess. If you ever hear someone referred to as a chess grandmaster, that is an ELO ranking of 1350, if memory serves. I think that's the grandmaster line. I'd have to Google it, to be honest, but I won't.
I'd have to Google most things that I know, to be honest, like to verify them. Or has this changed?
Yeah. So I at one point was ranked, I want to say 78 for fighting with synthetic longswords internationally, out of a pool of probably about 600, 700 people. Like I said, small pool size. But
you made it to the top.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't know quite how to wrap up this bit.
And now on to the episode.
Yeah.
There we go. Theme music.
Yeah. To the episode.
Right. That was saying theme song was actually a bit from my old podcast, how we would always end our cold opens. So it's just, if I just fall into it, it's natural.
So coming back to the second half of this pilot.
Yeah.
Was a little bit, I had to get back into it. And I think that having that space in between the two, I felt like some of this second half of this pilot falls apart for me a lot.
Yeah, watching them like a week apart, it
Mhm.
definitely, it just crumbled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we can point out the parts as we're going through it that started to crumble.
And it starts off with just this terrible CGI. It's like the swooping shots of the station when we're coming back from where we left off. And I could only think how much this, if this was a Star Trek movie, this would have been like a 6-minute long scene with like full orchestral, like depending on when the movie was made, lens flare, like it was really one of those, like it felt like it wanted to be one of those types of scenes.
Yeah, so we left off on that cliffhanger that was really accusatory, and then that left off with like a very weird angle on Sinclair. Visually, the camera angle was very strange. On my TV screen, it looked terrible. On my laptop, it still didn't look great. Like, it was just a really bad angle, and it goes right into the CGI of those robots, the maintenance bots being deployed. And I was thinking about, if you were watching, the pilot was split up into 2 episodes and you were watching it a week apart, would you register and remember that, oh yeah, they were sending out maintenance bots because something was wrong with the hull? Like, every shot of that has been really short. So I was like, I don't know if I would pick up on that very well.
I would hope and expect that they would put a little like last time on in front of it.
Previously on Lost.
Oh yeah, that's a thing, isn't it?
That. Yeah.
That's not really a thing in streaming world, but that's a thing that we used to do.
I mean, it's such not a thing that they just skip it for you most of the time. Unless they know that you're resuming a series, they'll leave it on sometimes if Netflix is smart like that.
Oh yeah. And after our bad CGI, we move into more of those confusing politics of Earth Central, where apparently the senators have authority over the military.
The senators just do whatever they want, apparently. Yeah. It's everyone was granted the powers of Mitch McConnell somehow. Maybe that's the answer.
You'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
I've been thinking about it the wrong way, taking all that stuff away. No, maybe. That would be terrible.
Maybe the future is not all it's cracked up to be.
And yet, we get Sinclair takes a moment here to pontificate and just goes off about no member of the crew is more important than the station, which I really thought was noteworthy compared to so much more, like it's such an opposite reaction compared to what you would normally expect from, like, in a military situation, you're like, no man left behind, all this stuff is like, all the media that you consume says these kinds of things, at least to me. And then this was like very starkly different, because it's just like, no, the station stands for something. The station is an ideal. The station needs to exist. I don't matter.
Yeah.
Which was nice. It's one of the things that sets Babylon 5 apart.
Yeah, I mean, that's real leadership right there, right? Like, I feel like in my day-to-day existence and personal life, I don't get much of that. And that's kind of sad to say that out loud. But like, there's a lot of, what am I going to get out of this? Or, what can I do for my buddy? And to hear that leadership of, this thing is bigger than all of us. I want you guys to do everything by the book and what we're supposed to do. I don't know, that's just really nice.
And after that scene, we move on and get confirmation that it was the gambling partner involved in this plot somehow. Or was it? As the maintenance guy goes in, we see the maintenance guy get killed, and then we see the maintenance guy walk off the elevator.
I laughed at this scene because I thought, the guy's like, oh, Del Varner. Yeah. God, is it a small galaxy? Like, I feel a lot like when I lived in New Orleans and still here in Oklahoma City, that I don't live in cities. I live in big, small towns, because you were always running into somebody you knew in both places. It's just the same thing. It's just the universe just going to get bigger, but also smaller, because why would this random maintenance guy know Del Varner?
Right. Did he swindle you too? Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that whole thing is very spooky, where he just gets shot and then walks off the elevator again.
I mean, it might tie into the stuff we find out about Del Varner later. I'm wondering if this maintenance guy is suspect in some of Del Varner's known illegal activities and smuggling.
Right.
Like maybe there's a whole story there that we don't have. Then after this, we get to
the courtroom, don't we? Well, I shouldn't say courtroom because I think they explicitly state that this is not a trial.
Yeah, it's not a trial. It's just a trial.
And we're interrogating the doctor about what he saw and who the witness is.
We have heard that there was a witness. Is this true?
Yes and no. The information is secondhand.
Yeah, and they won't say, but if it goes to trial, they'll say. Once again, making that distinction.
It's a trial, but not a trial. But there's definitely an ominous chair and a panel of people and some harsh lights.
It's definitely a different set than the council room in the rest of the series. And I wondered if this was like the room for this specific thing, because this looks like it's kind of set up for it. Like there's like some like side walls partitioning off access to be able to see people. Like I'm wondering if this is a separate room they have set up for these pseudo trials and what that says about Earth Force.
There's a lot of things I wonder about Earth Force after this section of the pilot. Like, I'll tell you later. There's one thing that's said specifically toward the end that I'm like, so what is this then?
Yeah.
But I like how they've got like the witness stand there, and it's got 4 TVs around it that have the witness on it, and these TVs are of no significant size. Like, usually when you have a TV for something, it's to show the person bigger.
Yeah.
But these are not for that purpose. They're smaller.
Yeah, the commander is smaller on the TVs than he is sitting. Like he's close enough where he would be larger in person. Like the goal of if you're trying to show detail is just completely lost.
Yeah, this is just to look cool. This is just because we want to reiterate that there are TVs all over this station.
Yeah, no expense was spared.
It's fantastic. We get G'Kar being more of a antagonistic dick.
G'Kar is such the bad guy. We find out his plan over the course of this is to hand Sinclair over to the Vorlons.
May I humbly suggest that we decline jurisdiction in this matter? This is more properly a matter for a true court of law. A court of law such as that on the Vorlon homeworld.
And it's just like, why?
What is the end game on that? Exactly. Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, so you just got shunned by the Minbari, right? You're never going to be friends with the Centauri. And Earth is really your only ally that you could possibly count on right now. And so you're just going to burn that bridge, right?
Oh, and he does. We do get another misogynistic line from G'Kar that I forgot that I wanted to point out.
Oh, the commander's woman.
Yes.
I have that in my notes too. Oh my God. Cringe city. I was just like, oh, when he says it.
And, I don't remember. We don't get a lot of like Narn gender relations. We get some. I do remember that later there's some sort of plot with that. I don't know what season it's in. But what is the role of women in their society? I know we get some more from the Centauri, so I'm really curious to talk about that whenever it shows up.
Well, we get Natoth.
Yeah, I remember Natoth, and I remember her being a strong person, and I don't remember G'Kar like not having respect for her. So is it just something they reserve for others?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of what we get from G'Kar in the pilot gets changed very quickly. A lot of that stuff gets turned down.
Yeah. So if you were sitting here watching this pilot, totally offended by G'Kar, we think that that's going to change.
Well, it definitely does. At some point, it definitely does. Like where I'm at in the series, it for sure does.
So maybe hold on a few more episodes.
Yeah. Just don't like him right now.
It's okay. We all acknowledge that was bad. I imagine if we tweeted it at J. Michael Straczynski, he would say that was bad.
For sure. So after this courtroom scene, they find Del Varner's body.
Yep.
and they don't know how long he's dead. They make a point of being all like, oh, we don't know. He's been dead for a while. Let's add to the mystery of how long he's been dead because we didn't already reveal that there's like a shape changer or something going on. Yeah, we get the line that Kosh has an anti-poison working now. And I'd love to know where they applied the anti-poison because I'd love to know where they applied the poison.
Yeah, the part of this storyline, well, there's a lot of that doesn't hold up for me either, but also the Vorlons have been so secretive about don't look inside the suit, don't, they would not look kindly upon the telepath. Like, so you would think that the Doctor would be different during this time after he has looked inside the suit, and there would be something significant there. We get like a throwaway line at the end of the episode.
Oh, I don't think it's a throwaway line.
I don't feel like his acting up to that point did that line justice, because to me, he's not acting any different. I wanted to see a contrast of like, I am a changed man.
I have seen some shit, man. I kid you not. I have seen some shit.
Now, he tells me he's a changed man, but I don't see it in his acting up until then.
Yeah.
So that's why I call it a throwaway. It's obviously not a throwaway line.
No, I can definitely understand that.
Speaking of things that aren't consistent and don't make sense, I would like you to scrub, if you have your episode open.
I do.
To timestamp 5752. We're told that Garibaldi is this super crack detective, right? And he is a smarty pants and a astounding cop. He's in a crime scene, we think, because, they've had to open Del Varner's quarters. He wasn't responding. The computer was jammed, or the lock was jammed or something. Walks in, there's this substance on the floor. Why is he touching that?
He immediately goes for it. Oh, without even a glove or anything, too.
This is like sticks it up to his face to smell it. It's like, what if that was like acid or a poison or something that you inhale it and it knocks you out? Like, what are you doing, Garibaldi?
Right. I will say, when there's the pile of liquid on the floor, I was expecting the trope of the body being stuck to the ceiling.
Oh, that would have been fun.
Right. And I don't know if they didn't do it to like subvert the trope, because this is like a 92 and that was a big thing in the 80s in horror movies.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So they might have been trying to subvert it. Then it wouldn't like it. It might have been fresh enough where it wouldn't have been cool to do the thing.
Yeah.
But I really wish they did the thing.
Now that would be big fun.
Yeah, right. It'd just be fun. Exactly. Man, yeah, he just has no respect for a crime scene.
It's like, well, you've just contaminated everything. They may throw this case out now.
At this time, I will find that the jury is unable to arrive at a verdict and declare a mistrial in this matter.
I mean, maybe they can like isolate his DNA and stuff from the.
Science,
you know what,
science.
You're right. You shouldn't just touch random liquids on floors. I'll just go that far. I don't care what time setting you're in. I see something on the floor and I don't know what it is. It's getting wiped up with something in between my hand and that liquid.
Yeah, that's not even a crime scene thing. That's just like day-to-day life. Don't touch weird shit on floors.
Right. So after this, we get a conversation between Carolyn and Delenn.
Yes.
And I thought this was super interesting. Mostly because Carolyn never shows up again. And they really go out of their way to like, everything he's done for you. And it's just like, can you imagine, like, it cements him as having so much more of a friendship that like his girlfriend, we don't even know how close they are really. That's not really well established how long they've even been dating. Feels like she, like, my wife could do that with my best friend. Like, that is, I think that's like the level of comfort, right? Like, if that were to happen, I've got maybe like 3 or 4 friends that she would probably do that with, and everyone else probably not close enough to. And it really makes me like, how close is Sheridan how close is Sheridan Delenn, and how close are Sheridan and Carolyn?
I hate to point out that it's Sinclair.
Oh, son of a!
You want to take 2 on that?
I even in my notes wrote Sheridan, crossed it out, wrote Sinclair over it. We could just leave it in. It's fine.
I mean, that's the curse of this show. We talked about that, I think, in the last episode too, was like, why would you name your two main captains? I don't think they're always called captain, but Jeffrey Sinclair and Sean Sheridan. Why would you do that? I don't know. I'm just asking for trouble.
It's asking for me to mess it up all the time.
But yeah, the other thing that's really interesting about that scene of Carolyn going and yelling at Delenn is not just that she feels like she can go yell at someone who might be Sinclair's best friend the way that this character is, but she's also an ambassador, a diplomat of an alien government. She feels empowered to go yell at an ambassador of another race entirely. Like that's a really that's very familiar to go to her quarters and yell at her.
Right. There's a moment in this scene where she's getting yelled at and she like stands up and walks to one side of the room. And I couldn't help but wonder if she was thinking about going and get her chokey ring.
Going to get her rings of power.
Right.
That would have been fun too. Big fun.
Hold on, let me go to my safe.
Well, and the relationship with Sinclair and Carolyn doesn't hold up for me either, because we have this where she feels protective enough and familiar enough to go yell at this alien ambassador, but a few scenes down she goes into the quarters and she finds out, because Sinclair just chucked a medal at her, that he was at the Battle of the Line, and she didn't even know.
Oh, I love that scene though.
How close can you be to somebody and they don't know that you were in the biggest battle of the most recent war? I don't know.
Right. Like, I don't love that scene because of that revelation. That's terrible. Like, how would you not know that?
No, the monologue is good though.
The monologue is good, and it's such, I literally have like a paragraph of like notes on what good world building that was. Because it tells us so much with so little. It's so good. But before we get there, we find out G'Kar has gills.
Painful to use,
but efficient.
Precisely.
That's fun.
Which I don't think comes back again the rest of the show. It might. I don't remember, but
yeah, they were just like, we want to show off this cool makeup effect that we are doing right now.
Yeah. It is interesting to me though that he does show it to Lita, because of all the characters who would know that was a thing. Spoilers. When Lita comes back in like season 2 or 3, she has gills.
She has some gills. Yeah. Well, but here's another thing in the plot that doesn't hold up for me. I honestly, the first 4 times I watched that, thought it was Lita. Just thought it was Lita, and she was like, concerned about getting Sinclair shipped off because she really thought that he did the murder. And then it's like, oh wait, no, that's the changeling.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I had a hard time with that. Like the pace at which we roll through those things. And maybe I'm the only idiot who didn't get it, but I can't be, right.
No, it's this pilot is very just blame the pilot. It's fine.
But yes, the gills are cool.
We get to see the gills, and then we get to find out why Londo betrayed Sinclair.
Yeah.
You almost did it. Caught myself. And we get this whole thing about like how his grandfather committed these war crimes, and G'Kar found out, and there were these war crimes against the Narn, and it's gonna like make him lose his place in Centauri nobility.
Of course I know. But what's done is done. Why bring it up now?
What could that possibly be? The Centauri hate the Narn. They go and they do a bunch of war crimes throughout the series against them. And it's just like, what would be worse?
Yeah.
I mean, it'd have to be like real bad, like, because the stuff that the Centauri do throughout the series.
And what was the power change, and when did it happen that sudden, because he says it's Londo's grandfather, right? I don't know how long they have like lifespan, if they've established that, or if they do for Centauri, but it's like, when was the shift that those war crimes were no longer cool? That was a weird sentence, but and how
no at a certain point the Centauri were just like, nah bro, that's not cool, And that's got to be a very dramatic
Yeah.
change. And I don't know what that could like. I don't know. It has to be something so horrible I don't even want to think about.
What was the impetus for that? Like, was there a larger power? Was it contact with the Minbari or something that made them realize, like, oh, we can't pick on these people anymore for whatever reason, and we're going to actually like prosecute the people who did pick on them and commit war crimes and atrocities. And it's a very interesting thing to think about, but I don't have a lot of information on it yet.
And then we get to the Battle of the Line, which, let me just say, as far as names of sci-fi battles go, the Battle of the Line might be the best one.
It is very cool.
It tells you everything you need to know about the battle without telling you anything about the battle.
Yeah.
And Sinclair has a super great quote when he's going off about it. The sky was full of stars, every star an exploding ship, one of ours. It's like how heavy that is.
Yeah, that is a very well delivered monologue. And I look at it with two minds. You know, I have the mind that is appreciating it, but at the same time, also I'm reminded of a scene from Airplane.
Formation. Target's just ahead. Target should be clear if you go in low enough. You'll have to decide. You'll have to decide. You'll have to decide.
It reminds me of that. But this episode only really has two significant monologues. And the first is Londo's at the very beginning, and then this one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both dramatically very significant.
Mm-hmm. There's another super small detail about this monologue that I really appreciated. And this is a detail in the closed captioning.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to throw kudos to whoever did the closed captioning, because they capitalized the line. A couple points in the monologue, they don't call it the full battle of the line. They just call it the line. And it's always capitalized.
That's a nice touch.
It's super important. And it's something that you could pick up on in listening to it, and that you would totally miss just reading it. I just wanted to, dear whoever did the closed captioning for this episode,
because it wasn't AI back then, you know.
It wasn't. On the off chance you happen to find this podcast, know that I appreciate that detail.
We love you and we appreciate you. Thank you for your service.
Your attention to detail is much appreciated. After that, we get Evelita running around in Med Lab.
You really want to try with these four dimensions.
I love them. I love them so much.
You know what? We're gonna have to come up with something for Jakara and Londo eventually, like Brangelina.
I don't want to force it. I'm gonna let it gestate for a bit. When the time comes, it will be there. God, I'm thinking of, if there's almost no way on Earth you've seen this show. There's a 6-episode, 1-season show called No Heroics on ITV, like maybe 10, maybe 12 years ago.
I am not in that 2%.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't expect anyone, except for maybe someone that I know that I showed that show to, and then also said, hey, I got a podcast too. Is the expected overlap, but it's all about like really terrible superheroes at like a bar where all the superheroes drink, and there's one guy who has fusion powers, so he'll touch two things and put them together, and now they're one thing, right?
Oh boy.
And he also does it with words all the time, so he's really into word fusions. Woosions is what he does.
Terrible.
What is this shit you're doing?
Oh, sorry, it's a nervous tick. Word fusion. Woosion.
It's fucking annoying.
So I get to look forward to your woosion.
Yes, you get to look forward to that. I think I've got a copy of it somewhere. I'm gonna see if I can find a clip.
That sounds like a condition. Yikes.
All right. I'll have to see if I can. I don't think it's even streaming anywhere, to be perfectly honest.
Well, if it is, I'll give it a look.
It's hilarious. But anyways, evil Lita is running around the med lab, turning off all the machines. And we get a timer on how long Kosh has to live. You know, that he's got 36 hours if the anti-poison doesn't take.
And at some point in the episode, they also gave us a timer on when the Vorlons were going to arrive. And I think it was 12 hours.
Yeah. So they don't line up at all. And the Dr. Kyle, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Shoots Lita with what I'm assuming is like a surgical laser.
Yes. I was like, is that safe to fire on a space station?
He just fires a laser at her, and it's just like, what is this laser doing here? It has to be for like surgical stuff, right? And if it's like a surgical laser from the future, I'm assuming it's going to do one of two jobs, and that's only do very light cutting to like do surface level stuff, or it's going to be like the emergency amputate button, right? And maybe that's just like my very limited medical knowledge that you would have those two tools, but I think of a scalpel and I think of a bone saw. What are you replacing? And it's just like, he went for the scalpel, I guess.
It's a very large and unwieldy scalpel, and I'm not sure how you do surgery with that thing.
It did not make sense to me.
But it's fun.
The future.
I wanted to point out too, I think we may have passed it, but it takes until I wrote this timestamp down. 1 hour, 1 minute, and 30 seconds in is when we finally figure out that there's something sabotaging on the hull. It takes us that long.
After all the clips of outside the station we get.
It's taken us that long because we had, hull pressurization is down, and we sent those maintenance bots out there, and then one of the maintenance bots gets shot, and then they're like, oh, that maintenance bot never reported back in at 1 hour and 1 minute and 30 seconds into this episode. So I was like, oh, we need a little bit better home security on Babylon 5.
Yep. And after this, the plot really just starts to move. We've got like 20 something minutes left in the episode here, and everything is very rapid fire from this point on in the rest of the show. We get the info dump about the changeling net. And honestly, I'm sad it wasn't an alien. Like, I know they wanted to do a thing with the intrigue later.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been much cooler to just be like, there's shape-changing aliens. Deal.
And then the Babylon 5 to Deep Space Nine comparisons continue.
Right. And at this point, they like know what it is, right? But like, how is this not something you just search for casually?
Right. Like, why is there not a security protocol or, regular command that runs just to like, is there, could anybody have brought on this illegal technology that apparently draws a lot of power? I think they specifically mentioned that. So that's how they start narrowing down where this person is because there's so much power in this device. Why do we not sweep for that on the reg?
Just search for giant power sources that shouldn't be on your station.
I mean, there could be other things like bombs, maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and it's not even just that. It's like, if you bring like a space heater into an office, it's a problem.
I told you had too many plugs in one outlet.
Yeah.
Like, how are you not concerned about something drawing this much power on a space station? It has to be.
Why didn't it flip any breakers?
Right. Exactly. And then we get another thing that really makes me happy about Babylon 5 compared to Star Trek.
Okay.
And that's, we see Garibaldi and Sinclair getting ready to go fight, and they actually put fucking armor on.
Yeah, we need them bulletproof vests.
Right? That is my number one, like, why doesn't this exist thing in Star Trek? And I guess...
And there's been multiple series where they could have brought it up.
Right? And I mean, they do some shield stuff on people occasionally, but like, just armor, like just armor. It's always, in the history of combat, armor has always been a good thing, except maybe Dune, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, they put on those big old vests, and they grab a type of gun that we never see again.
Yep. It looks like it shoots like foam discs.
Oh yeah.
Like a toy you'd give a kid. And then there's a throwaway line about recordings counting as witnesses. And I was just really appreciative that deep fake technology doesn't make it to the 2020s. or make it past the 2020s, we hope, into the 2200s.
Well, and with those recorders that they take, I think, the point of the recorders was like, we want to show this cool like CGI effect that we can do of this floaty drone that's going to follow them around. But there's at one point where, everything's moving really fast, and Takashima's just like, start beaming his recording into the Vorlon ship, patch him in, let them see what's going on. And it's like, why would the Vorlons fucking care?
Yeah.
Like, they're watching the guy that they've been told killed or attempted to kill Kosh, running around the ship chasing a guy with guns. Like, how, like, this guy killed our ambassador. This is how not seriously you're taking this. You're letting him run around with a gun right now. Yes. So they're thinking, oh, he's doing more crimes. Yeah, he's doing a crime. Yeah, that Vorlon fleet shows up, and it's a ton of Vorlon ships. Which I've always loved the Vorlon ships. I think they're cool. They're so cool. They remind me a lot of my memories of the 8472 ships from Voyager. Yes. But I haven't seen one of those in so long. I'm just starting my Voyager rewatch, really. I'm still in season 1. You got a bit to go then. I haven't watched it since it aired, really. I think I haven't watched Voyager in that long. They're very creepy with the green. Yeah. The like sickly green. And I don't know if they did it in the pilot, but I feel like it later, you get the like shifty colors. And we find out some cool things about the Vorlon ships. I've always thought they were really neat. Agreed. And it's just so many of them, which is like also not how the Vorlons work at all. Way more than they need to take care of the station. Yeah. And then let's see, they're chasing around the changeling net alien person we don't know yet in the alien sector. And Delenn just shows up some Vulcan strength, just like superhuman strength. Delenn just like picks up Garibaldi over the shoulders and just starts hossing, and it's just like, oh, Minbari, you're super strong. And like, why is she here? Why is she there? Why did she come down? It's almost like she knew what was going to be revealed at the end. Oh yeah, it's almost like she had a suspicion. Yeah, like she had some file from her government to hand over when it's convenient. And then we get the reveal, actually, shortly thereafter, that it was a Minbari from the Warrior Caste all along. That left the Warrior Caste. Yeah, some sort of separatist group. So clearly Delenn had some sort of knowledge about the separatist group, at least, and thought that they could be involved. Yeah. Yeah. And he says the iconic line that shows up later in the series several times to Sinclair as he's cornered, he's trapped, he knows he's not going to make it out of this, and he tells Sinclair that there's a hole in your mind, and then decides to blow himself up. Yep. Just blows himself up, just calls it like good. All good, suicide. That's enough exposition for today. Done. I'm going to say some famous last words and then goodbye. And then after all that, Sinclair makes it out. Obviously, otherwise the show would have not continued. Carolyn says goodbye to Sinclair and to the show and leaves for her ship. It's pretty hurtful that he never mentioned the Battle of the Line. I think that's what did this relationship end. Did it? Yeah. Quite possibly. We get Dr. Kyle. I have looked upon the face of a Vorlon horror, and nothing is the same again. It is a cool line. Yeah. I just didn't believe it when he said it. It's that horror. Like it's literally, I have looked upon the face of Vorlon horror and nothing. And I had to like pause and like listen to it like 3 times. And if it wasn't for the closed captioning, I wouldn't know what he was saying. Yeah, his accent was pretty strong. Sure. And a part of it is just like, he's just like, I feel like he's just running through his lines at this point. He's like, I got my paycheck. Let me go. I really wanted to see he was being haunted throughout the second act. And I would have felt like that line meant more if I had seen how haunted he was and how distressing it was to work on this Forlon. But he was just doing his job the whole time.
Yeah. Jakar gives a toast to the future, the undiscovered country. That's pretty nice. It's the start of his face turn.
Yep.
But then we get a scene with him and Sinclair right after where he lies about nanotechnology in his intestines.
Machines too small for the human eye to see, like the one you just swallowed in that drink.
Yes, this is where the line happened that I was like, what are you even doing here, Sinclair? What is your organization even? He says, oh yes, that the assassin was a member of the Minbari warrior class. And he said, I used to be a member of the warrior class.
Oh, the Earth warrior cast, yeah.
You're still in the fucking military. What do you mean used to? What are you saying? What are these words coming out of your mouth? Of course you're still part of the warrior class. This is where you say my government is really powerful still, and I'm still in the military. And you might not want to cross us, but he uses the past tense like they're not a military anymore.
Yeah. And it's like also like a very roguish maneuver with like him and Garibaldi talking about it afterwards. Where it's just all like, oh, they'll never find it because it's not there, but they'll keep looking because they can't find it. And it's just all like, it's just like a high school senior prank where you like threw a couple pigs and numbered them 1, 2, 4 and threw them in the hallways. Like, that's what it felt like to me. It was just like, it felt very juvenile.
Your high school must have been very interesting. Yeah, no, I do enjoy that little bit of trickery. I don't think that could actually play off in the world, but I'm willing to suspend my disbelief for that. In other places where I haven't been, I'll let that one go, especially because you get that delightful little dialogue at the end of the scene where Londo is not in on anything and he's just like, look at these weirdos, beep beep.
Yeah, well, that's a joke for later too, the beep beep, because that's a Rebo and Zudi reference.
Oh, yes.
Which is the comedians that we end up meeting in season 5.
Yep, I remember Rebo and Zudi. Yes.
Spoilers, it's Penn and Teller. In an episode written by Neil Gaiman, actually. One of the few episodes not written by JMS.
I did not know he wrote for the show. I've learned a thing.
It's just the one.
Well, I remember that episode. So, it's nice to hear when there's a particularly memorable episode that it's like, well, that was written by somebody that you know from other writing.
Yeah. And we get a very quick wrap up. It's like, Kosh is okay. The station survives. Let's throw some Tennyson and turn off the lights.
Oh, see, I feel like I've been very nitpicky on this half of the pilot. But when he's throwing up that Tennyson, Delenn is like, a poet? What's a poet? And I was like, you cannot tell me the Minbari don't know what a fucking poet is.
Right.
They're the most poetic race on this show.
They know poetry. They have a different word for it.
But the way that he has to describe it to her, I was like, nah. It's like, I feel like that's one of the basic things that you would learn in learning about another culture or race is language. Is you learn how do they use that language and what are their idioms or what are their works of art and literature. So you can't tell me the Minbari don't know what a poet is. They probably read Tennyson. Sinclair.
Right. You could I refuse to accept that Delenn hasn't read Tennyson.
Yes.
Of all Minbari.
Yep. Because we know later that she's really, I won't want to say obsessed, but she is a little obsessed with like human culture and understanding humans and knowing about humans. And there turns out to be a reason for that. So yeah. It's like that's silly. And
that's the episode.
Yeah. Babylon 5 is open for business.
Open for business. Yeah. Like the station closes. Like there's not a night shift. It's all like, oh, you didn't make it into 8 to 5. Port's closed. Sorry.
Well, I better go to Centauri Prime because it's open, 24/7 or whatever. Earth time.
Yeah, it's not open on Earth time. Yeah.
I feel like I've been really hard on this second half. I don't know what got into me.
It's not good is the answer, but that's
I
fine.
promise I do love this show. I'm not a troll. I'm not here to just hate on something people love.
I mean, we've got a couple really good episodes right off the bat. Like the show does start real strong after this.
Yeah.
I think the next 3 or 4 episodes are all excellent, at least from looking at the episode descriptions right now. And having not watched, I mean, I guess I've watched them within the last year.
Yeah, there's definitely some iconic, at least iconic plot and aliens coming up. I do remember that. You know, I got through the first 3 or so. And I remembered not liking season 1 when I saw it the first time. But I remembered some of these episodes and thinking that they were elsewhere in the show. So to me, that says that maybe season 1 isn't as bad as I thought.
Yeah. Season 1 of Babylon 5 is probably better than season 1 of any Trek show, with the exception of maybe Lower Decks.
Yeah, Lower Decks I love it. It was written for us. Lower Decks is written for millennials for sure.
Yeah. I mean, most Trek shows have a very terrible season 1, notoriously bad. And I feel like this doesn't fall into the trap that a lot of shows do in their first season, where you're just like, oh, it's trying to find its footing. Like, no, they did that in this pilot, and they're good pretty much after this point.
TNG is the second episode, Code of Honor. Is that? It's really early.
It's like the second or third. It's real, yeah, because I think it's Farpoint, Naked Now. It's got to be one of the first couple. Without it in front of me, I think it's like episode 4 or 5.
Yeah, wherever that episode falls, we have a better episode of Babylon 5 than that.
For sure. It's the 4th episode. And our 4th episode is Infection, which is a good one.
Even the second episode, I know that we're going to have some good stuff to talk about there.
Yeah.
So we get some really good history, and we also get some of that attitude of the 90s versus how would we look at this now. That is interesting to think about.
Oh man, Bester shows up as early as episode 6.
I'm here to save your butts.
Oh, that's fun.
I didn't think he was that early in the show.
I remember he was supposed to be someone else.
Like actor-wise, or
originally. He was supposed to be a different character. He was supposed to be a different throwaway character, and he couldn't make it.
I gotta Google that because I gotta know. Character, maybe? I don't know. Night 2. It says J. Michael Straczynski originally wrote the part of Night 2 with Walter specifically in mind. Who is Night 2? I don't remember this person at all.
Oh, okay. He's one of the 2 dudes that kidnap Sinclair. They kidnap Sinclair to find out what happened to him during the Battle of the Line.
Yeah, okay. That will be fun. Oh, it says he had a heart attack and was still recovering from surgery, so they couldn't do Walter Koenig for that. Well, and thank God that they didn't, because Bester is so much more interesting.
For sure. Yeah, Bester is so good. Walter Koenig is so good in this show.
That was a trip. A good trip. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. But we're through it. Yeah. And now we can really start getting into some stuff. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. Thank you to Jeremy Siegel for our theme music. If you like Jeremy's work or you want to see more of what he's got going on, he has a Bandcamp out there. He's jeremysiegel42.bandcamp.com. Thanks for sharing your talents with us too, Jeremy.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with another first season episode of Babylon 5.
Beep beep.